It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Go figure. Last week, I totally forgot that the Hall of Fame was going to be televised right after SmackDown. I know some of you are not going to be here live Friday night because right now the WWE Hall of Fame is currently airing. But I hope you all enjoy it. It is Friday night, April 5th. You know, it's funny. I looked at that date. Today is my wife's birthday. This screenshot actually was our dinner date about an hour ago. The fact that I forgot the date, something's not all there with yours truly today. WrestleMania weekend, everybody. WrestleMania 40. This time tomorrow, WrestleMania will be in full force. It's going to be awesome. I think the surprises that we are hearing that's going to go down, if half of those surprises happen, is going to be immense. I will tell you this without giving away any spoilers. A lot of you, and listen, this is not trying to, tout or rub shit in. Kevin and I have been doing this for a couple of decades now. And over the years, we have amassed some friends in the world of pro wrestling. Just because we don't publicly rub elbows and kiss ass on social media and publicly mingle don't mean that conversations don't happen behind the scenes. But somebody who is going to be at WrestleMania tomorrow said something to us this weekend. And it really kind of puts in perspective of what you can expect to the feel of WrestleMania 40. This is a new ownership. It is new blood. It is a new infusion of energy, of ideas. And listen, of course, we're going to get into some AEW conversation tonight. We have to talk a little bit about CM Punk and Ariel Helwani. We have to talk about what Triple H said earlier today on Pat McAfee that is ruffling a lot of feathers. We have to talk about the tweets by Dax Harwood and others that AWA has helped pro wrestling. It's creating jobs. So everything is cool in the gang. We have to address Edge opening up Dynamite as that little rah-rah speech. We got to address the internet clowns that have poisoned Tony Khan, that have basically convinced him that everything he's doing is right and it's good and it's Mercedes is a game changer, which I thought was fucking hilarious. The day before she debuted, we had that conversation publicly. There's a lot of stuff we have to get into, and I don't know where some of these conversations go tonight. I like to not overthink things before we go live. I like to just go with the flow. And I will be defending AEW a little bit tonight. I think some of the criticism this week is not smart. It comes off as spiking the football by people out there that selfishly and hypocritically use AEW to generate ad revenue, whether it's YouTube or whether it's SoundCloud or whether it's Twitter, Facebook. There's a lot of hypocrites out there. And the releases that recently happened, the boys posting all of this stupid shit about travel. I don't know where these conversations go tonight, but we will definitely tackle all of them. But getting back to my original point, the person that we talked to a few people the last couple of days, but one person in particular said that the vibe within WWE is a huge influx of energy. Things feel different. And when you dissect it, there's a lot of wrestlers that are not getting utilized all that spectacularly. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors involved. We have discussed that over and over and over again. But even though some wrestlers are getting smoke and mirrors, they're still getting airtime. You go back to the Attitude Era, since a lot of people like doing that, and you look at the win-loss record of some of the wrestlers you would call mid-card or upper mid-card. What if I told you that some of those wrestlers that are now arguably Hall of Famers, if they're not in the Hall of Fame already, some are. How would you feel if I told you that some of those wrestlers that people feel should be in the WWE Hall of Fame lost 66% of their matches, lost 75% of their matches? It isn't always about win-loss. It isn't always about numbers. And the feel with the new ownership, TKO Group Holdings, there's a new energy, there's a new excitement, there's a new blood, so to speak, in that company. And that is just giving everybody a different vibe. You see this book that Ronda Rousey's put out, and there is a shitload of bitterness in there. But, is she becoming the female Ryback? I mean, if you're that bitter about Vince, if you're that bitter about Bruce Pritchard, if you're that bitter about the industry, it comes off that she's not interested in getting back to the world of pro wrestling, or she's turning into one of these quote unquote snowflakes that need to be pampered, coddled, little pillow, reassurance. I love AEW. AEW is creating jobs. AEW is good for pro wrestling. And so is TNA, and so is MLW, and so is GCW, and so is any indie promotion that is alive. But it's this weird need of public comfort. And a lot of these internet wrestling clowns the last 3 or 4 years. And it's a shame because a lot of them do have power. A lot of them do have following. And they are seriously damaging AEW. And now, when you start realizing that no matter how much of that warm comfort, hot chocolate feeling inside you get, at the end of the day, venues don't care, networks don't care, advertisers don't care. There's a lot of aspects about the business. You can't just walk in and think that executives, publicly traded companies, just because AEW is not, the people that they do business with are. And they have to answer to the stockholders and the investors. And you start seeing these releases, Tony Khan is starting to turn into Vince McMahon because he's firing people. Huh? What the fuck am I reading here? You see the boys complaining about, we were forced to travel 3 hours to the airport and our car is broken down. Oh, you poor fucking little sissy babies. You poor little sensitive little children out there. Oh my God, we don't have a car right now. And we were usually flown in through Nashville and now we have to drive 3 hours. You poor fucking babies. Holy shit, what I am watching this week. No, this is not AEW's worst week ever. Because you don't understand the mindset of AEW. If this week was not WrestleMania 40 and this week would have been Saudi Arabia or Payback or Backlash, AEW would have had the same week. You knew sooner or later CM Punk was going to open his mouth. Guys, let's be honest for a second. Did CM Punk really say anything that you didn't already know? Honestly, we ripped this shit to pieces a year ago. A lot of podcasters ripped it a year ago. But did you go to Cornette's clip talking about CM Punk? and it's got 400,000 views. The interview with Ariel Helwani's got almost 1 million. Every fucking podcaster alive ran to talk about it because it's dirt. It's dirt we already knew. Of course, we're going to talk about it here because I look at it in a different perspective. I look at it in a totally different perspective. These internet wrestling clowns who have damaged Tony Khan in the last couple of years, shit's got to start changing. And you may forget, I don't remember the gentleman's name, that came from WWE, but also came from the entertainment industry. He worked for sports outlets out there. You got Jennifer Pepperman, I think. You know, quietly AEW starting to bring in people who don't give a fuck about these goofy podcasters, that don't give a fuck about these bloggers, that don't give a fuck about these people that are very, very cushiony on social media. Mercedes Moné game changer. Okada game changer. That fucking reject with that website that says Triple H is kicking himself in the ass for not signing Okada, for not signing Will Ospreay. And Triple H basically said today, just because you were popular another place doesn't mean that you're going to get over in the WWE. Yeah, if you want to split hairs, Keith Lee, Adam Cole, he wanted to be a manager. Not for nothing, guys. Not for nothing, guys. For the last 3 weeks, these were the ratings with Mercedes Moné, Okada, and Will Ospreay. These are NXT numbers. These are NXT numbers when Adam Cole was there, when Keith Lee was there, when the Undisputed Era was there. And then you look this past Wednesday, and I thank Mikey for sending this to me. Adam Copeland with the rah-rah speech. AEW, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I want to retire. I love you, Adam, but let's rephrase those words. This is where I got to retire because WWE did not want to push you anymore. Unless you wanted to work GCW and reincarnate your career a la Matt Cardona, you had no other choice. And after that rah-rah speech, the fucking rating went down worse than usual. You think I'm going to watch AEW because they create jobs? Because it makes Dax Harwood warm inside? That Adam Copeland says, here we wrestle. Where were all these fucking rah-rah speeches when the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page and Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy Jack Perry and all these other people were doing stupid shit, and you started hearing things about Tony Khan 3.5 goddamn years ago? The treatment to Malachi Black. You think I forgot when Malachi Black was in his car? I don't appreciate executives, people behind the scenes in AEW talking about my mental health, leaking it out publicly. You look at Miro, Diddy-Dima. You look at FTR. You know, when you know what was lost with the CM Punk stuff? You know what was lost with the CM Punk interview with Ariel Helwani? CM Punk said a lot of praise and a lot of love for a lot of wrestlers that wrestle there. He does not want AEW to shut down. He does not want AEW to go out of business. He doesn't want AEW to get stepped on and spit out. He has a problem with the foundation that I have said for 4 years it's based on silly putty. Yeah, I know Bischoff figured it out a year ago. Actually, he's much smarter than that. He just realized that he can make a crazy amount of money on YouTube if he starts, hey, CM Punk proved that I was right. Yeah, and Eric Bischoff proved that JD from New York was right, that I was right, Joe Cronin was right, Kevin Castle, Wrestling Soup, Go on and on and on. 3-4 years ago. It's just, people didn't want to listen. People didn't want to listen. Unless, we're recognizable people, or if I got nice tits, let's be honest. If I sit here in a bathtub with rubber duckies wearing a bikini, I could talk about anything in pro wrestling and everybody will remember every minute of it. So you look at these ratings. You look at Will Ospreay versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Look at those fucking numbers for the first hour. All right, Thunder Rosa. Oh, she's wrestling Mariah May in the main event. Oh, women are getting a chance. And people see right through that shit, man. They see right through that shit. You look at these ratings. This is now 4 weeks with Mercedes Moné. That demo, I know WrestleNomics likes to round out the demo to the nearest number. But if you really want to split hairs and add up individual viewers, that demo rating from Wednesday is the lowest since 2020. Before CM Punk, before Okada, before Moné, before Adam Cole, before a shitload of people. Lower demo. Then they're this close away of having a lower demo than NXT. I could be unfair right now and pull out ratings from 2 years ago in AEW and show you demos where it went over 600,000 viewers for a regular demo, for a regular Dynamite. No earth-shattering announcement, no debuts, 600,000 plus in some quarters. They have lost half of their 18 to 49 viewers. Those viewers that Meltzer and everybody out there thinks that that's the be-all, end-all in the world of pro wrestling. I have said since 1997, since I started doing my hotlines in 1997, I said, I don't give a fuck about demos unless it's news. The only people that should care about demos is the promotions, the networks, and the advertisers. That's it. That's it. Because I want a baseball stadium filled with 5,000 fans. I don't want a stadium filled with 1,000 fans, but they're all 18 to 49. I knew that these internet wrestling, I want to use the R word that rhymes with retard so bad, but I'm not, because we're supposed to be better than that now. By the way, we had an earthquake here earlier today. I'll tell you all about that a little bit later. I thought like 2 800-pound people were having sex on my building. The fucking place rocked a little bit. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. But I knew 4 years ago that this shit was coming. And I knew it got as worst as it possibly could earlier this year when every person that matters in the podcast world, in the media world, in the analytics world, actually tried to tell you all that AEW scored higher than a show that had 2.5 million viewers. They were actually, because of the demo, they actually were trying to tell you that AEW scored third for the night. And meanwhile, you look and you see a show like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, whatever it was, had 2.6 million viewers. And they were showing you a grid that show was ranked 20th. And AEW was ranked number 1 or number 2. And they had 300-something thousand viewers. You're going to tell me that a demo with 400,000 viewers is ranked number 1, and a show that has 2.2 million viewers more. Networks, promotions, advertisers. Those are the only motherfuckers that should be caring about that. Because when I showed you that infamous picture, remember when Adam Copeland was in an AEW building not too long ago and the building was 3/4 empty? And I put, you think you know, show him. Instead of you think you know him, I put, you think you know, show him. Are you going to go back to that venue, if the venue gets a cut and the venue says the fucking place was 3/4 empty, you tell that fucking venue, yeah, but they were all 18 to 49 demographic. I'll kick your ass out of that fucking building. You show me all those empty seats and you justify it by saying, oh, but half of them are 18 to 49. Since when does an empty building come out positive? What did CM Punk just say in Ariel Helwani? That if you think getting a 5-star match rating in front of a building that's a quarter full is good, you might as well get your head checked out. Let's play a couple of CM Punk clips. We'll get into some super shout outs, some of your questions, and get out of here. So let's get into, all right. No particular order. This CM Punk clip is beautiful. I want you to hear the words that he has to say about this. Give this a listen.
Their business, and I know a lot of people are gonna be upset. It's just not predicated. It's not a real business. It's not about.
What do you mean by that?
It's not about selling tickets. It's not about drawing money. It's not about making money. It's just not.
What's it about?
I don't know.
Really?
I think having good matches, maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was recently at an indie show, and somebody came up to me and they asked me, oh, did you watch my match? And I said, yeah. I'm like, oh, can you give me anything? And I almost really kind of faced like this dilemma, because where I was just like, and I looked at her and I said, what do you think I'm going to say? Well, you're going to tell me I need to sell more and not do as many moves. Yeah. Okay. Because it's a preference, right? Like it's a flavor of ice cream. But then I asked her, I said, what's the house here tonight? And she said, it's sold out. It's an arcade bar in Chicago. And I said, what can I tell you? You sold the place out. So at this level, and this wasn't like I'm on this level and I'm talking down to you, but I said, at this level, you're doing everything you can. I said, but that shit does not fly on national television. I think that's being proven right now. Maybe sometimes, maybe little bites here and there. It's not a sustainable business.
What about your time with MJF? Selfishly, you didn't ask me, but my favorite stuff that you did there was the stuff with MJF.
I think it's head and shoulders above everything else.
Did you enjoy the feud with him?
I did. Yeah.
Do you think that he could be one of the big stars, one of the faces of the business? He's relatively young.
I think Ariel
still.
wanted to say
Like one of
WWE.
those guys.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. The talent there is unbelievable. You know what I mean? I just think it's presentation and environment. I'm going to get in so much fucking trouble for all this. But
No, you're not.
By who?
yeah, you're right. Yeah, the internet.
You haven't tweeted since 2022.
The basement. Oh, I got rid of that shit.
Yeah. So who cares?
Goddamn cesspool.
I know.
Yeah, it's awful.
I wish I could do the same.
And like
sometime.
that's the thing too. Is just like, do I really care? I don't know. Like there's just really small niche audience that seems to be just like constantly like rooting for my downfall. And the LOL, he got hurt again. But they don't talk about all the great things that I've done. It's always just like, oh, LOL, he lost in the UFC. Well, yeah, okay. This is the shit that happens when you're an ambitious person. I would much rather choke to death on greatness than, starve on mediocrity. And
That nailed it right there. And I want to use that to bring up Triple H earlier today. We'll get to more CM Punk in a little bit. As you can see, today's a little different format, little laid back, easy listening because WrestleMania is tomorrow. Don't want to have any earth shattering combo today, but just some real talk. Triple H was on Pat McAfee earlier today. Didn't take notes. No need to take notes. Go out of your way and watch it. You'll enjoy it. Not a whole lot is talked about. I mean, they bring up, about the Attitude Era and, what is this era going to be called and this and that. And they talk about a few things. But one thing that he said that Pat McAfee knew, Triple H knew, and of course it happened. They knew when he said it that it was going to piss off not only the hardest of hardcore of AEW fans, Tony Khan, who has not said anything yet, the weird element of social media out there. Triple H basically said, we're in competition with ourselves. I am no way trying to compare what I do or any other job to WWE. But if anybody that goes back with Kevin and I to 2007, 2008, when Kevin and I started doing shows together in 2004, we were still part of the Minority Report. And I've been putting up retro episodes on Patreon for some of our channel members, on Made Men and Women on YouTube. And, you know, we're very, very careful what we put out there because it is 20 years old. And obviously the conversations have changed a lot over the years. But there was something else. We used to rag on every podcast out there, the In Your Heads, even the Wrestling Observer Radio, anybody out there with a podcast, we would rip apart. And there was some memorable skits, the Ballad of Don Tony, you know, I mean, this was some wild shit. But after doing it for about a year, it was not equating to numbers. People were laughing their asses off. Listen, people were laughing their asses off. But at the end of the day, we wanted to grow. We wanted to build our audience. And after a year, it seemed like it was stuck. And we were talking to a few people in the business at the time that we became friendly with. And one of them said something that sticks with me to this day that I've said 1,000 times on these shows. And it's advice I give to each and every one of you out there, no matter what line of work you do, even if you podcast, whatever you do. And this person said to me, don't make people tune into you because others are bad. Have them tune into you because you are good. And I know that sounds cliche and it might sound a little goofy, but when I first heard it, and it's so common sense, but when I first heard it, what he was basically saying is every time I would really, really rip apart, make fun of, and belittle all of these other people that were doing hotlines and podcasts at the time. Any of you remember when I did The Weakest Mark in 2000? You are the weakest mark. We took every wrestling hotline and we took clips and we showed everybody who we did a contest. Who is the weakest mark? We did this 25 years ago. You know, so when you hear castrating the marks and this and that, we had a fucking t-shirt in 1999. Remember the gray shirt with the big fist and it said smash the marks? We were doing that shit way before Vince Russo came up with that. And it's not a knock on Vince Russo. I'm just saying it's been there a lot longer than you realize. But after a year of making fun of all of these people and getting that niche audience that just wanted to hear jab, 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 calling this person a retard, a reject, this, and that, you know, asshole, whatever you want to call them. I mean, we said a lot worse. You know, somebody said, you're basically telling people that you should tune into Don Tony, Kevin Castle, Joey 924, Black Moses, Smoked Out, whoever else, not because we're good, but because this person's a retard, this person's an asshole, this person's a moron, this person's brain dead, this person's stupid. Tell people to tune into you, not because they're bad, but because you're good. And we did that. And within 12 months, we became the number one listened to show out there for years. And that's because we stopped. If you look at all the skits that we used to do, they stopped in 2007. Not because we got rid of Joey 924, not because we got rid of that fucking raccoon clown, but because we wanted to focus on why we're good, not why people are bad. And Triple H today said pretty much the same thing. they didn't take a shot at AEW, although they knew immediately by saying, we're in competition with ourselves. Pat McAfee's like, you know what's going to happen, H, right? You know what's coming, right? And Triple H's like, look, I'm not trying to be controversial. But every AEW hater out there, like, oh, WWE looks at them as a laughing stock. No, they don't. Trust me when I tell you, a lot of wrestlers in WWE are very close friends with a lot of wrestlers in AEW. They don't give a fuck about Tony Khan. They don't give a fuck about how they run the company. Their friends are getting paid. Their friends are working. Their friends, there is a brotherhood. You know, when you see this, this is why I'm so confused about this Edge speech. In fact, I want to mention a super chat that came in. And I want to, do I have it here? I may not even have it here. Let me see. Came in early, so that's why. Who sent this? BTC 316. Thank you, BTC 316. He wrote earlier, happy WrestleMania weekend, everyone. DT, did you hear Triple H's remarks about WWE only in competition with themselves? Do you think AEW will send Daniel Bryan out there next week on Dynamite in response? And he put a smiley emoji with it. I know this is going to sound wacko, but anybody that goes back to the mid-2000s as a wrestling fan, especially Ring of Honor, you'll understand why I say this. To me, Edge, Adam Copeland coming out on Dynamite and doing that rah-rah speech in response to CM Punk revealing what 90% of what he said we already knew, that made me feel like when Gabe Sapolsky called the Rob Feinstein incident their 9/11. See, a lot of you don't know that story because it's been long buried. And listen, I want to be straight up honest. I have no ill will towards Gabe Sapolsky anymore. I used to hate that man because I didn't like what he did to Lowrider and Boogaloo when they wanted to get a payday in XPW. I was watching an interview since Muhammad Ali's going in the WWE Hall of Fame this weekend. I'll bring this up. I was watching an interview that Bob Costas did about 2 years ago, and he was talking about Muhammad Ali. And basically what he said is, look, Muhammad Ali was not this innocent person everybody paints him out to be, but he was very, very special and very beloved and a very good man. And he's right. Muhammad Ali was a beautiful man. I wish I would have ever had the opportunity to meet him. But he wasn't a saint. That doesn't make him evil. Not everybody is perfect. Not everybody is what you paint them out to be. And the reason why I say that is, you look at Gabe Sapolsky now. Back then, there was a lot of evil going on behind the scenes. But everybody hushed because of who knew who and who had the connections. I hated that man back then. I have no ill will anymore. He's proven over the years that he is a very good man, did a very good job in the world of pro wrestling, built a lot of careers. I know some people still despise him, but at that time, I couldn't stand the man. And when Rob Feinstein was accused of trying to solicit a minor, which ended up being false, but at the time, nobody knew. The internet was not its infancy. It was around for 9-10 years, but still technology was much different back then. But when that happened and Ring of Honor got in chaos and they forced Feinstein to sell his share or, pushed him out, Gabe Sapolsky went public and said, this is our 9/11. I know a lot of you out there think what Stephanie McMahon said, comparing the steroid trial of Vince and the feds to 9/11 is one of the most dumbest things you've ever heard in the world of pro wrestling or just in humanity. Imagine comparing 3,000 plus people dying of terrorism, and you're comparing Rob Feinstein being forced out of Ring of Honor because he allegedly was soliciting a minor. You call that your 9/11? What Adam Copeland did on Monday, in my opinion, is almost to that stupidity level. Why are you giving a rah-rah speech? To who? Your AEW audience is watching. No one was watching with the intentions of mocking you at the same time. Who was he? If he's sending a message to the internet, we're common sense enough to realize that that backfires. That looks like desperation. CM Punk vented what we already knew. CM Punk, again, listen to that one clip that I just shared. He praised a lot of people that work in that company. He didn't name them by name. If he starts naming people by name, they could be public enemy number 2, 3, 4, 10. There's not enough time to start naming people. But there's a lot of good people that work in AEW. Wrestlers, male and female, that work for the WWE are happy for the wrestlers that are working in AEW. I watched somebody interview Becky Lynch this week. And you see it. We're not stupid. Just because you have an iPhone or a microphone or fucking, little GoPro and you get a tag that you could be pressed doesn't mean you're a fucking professional. I'm not a professional. But they think, oh, I landed an interview. Oh, here comes my moment. And you'd see that people are trying to get the gotcha. Oh, what do you think about Mercedes Moné going to AEW? What did Becky say? What anybody would say in the brotherhood and the motherhood. Go for yours. Go for it. Have a blast. Maybe one day we'll be back in the ring together. No controversy there. What the fuck do you think she's going to say? What the fuck do you think anybody's going to say there? CM Punk was not ragging on the roster. He was ragging on that silly putty foundation. The foundation that you could bring in tons of people, and when you still have the EVPs, you turned it in, the AEW turned it into a storyline. And guess what? People are like, nah, man. AEW thought that by having the Young Bucks bring the story to life by pushing their power, pushing people, Shivani, and doing stupid things and fucking with Sting and this and that and calling themselves EVPs. And because they changed their names, it kind of reminded me of WCW when it was Robert Eaton. Oh, now he's calling himself Matthew. Ooh, now I'm supposed to hate him because he's Matthew. No. They thought that all of us wanted to be like, yeah, Darby, fuck him up. Beat the shit out of him. These motherfuckers, look what they did to CM Punk, these assholes. Fucking crucify them. Cut their nuts off. Fuck them all. No. We understand that Darby gets along with the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks gets along with Taz. Nick Jackson posts a picture fist bumping Taz. This is what keeps me going every day. People aren't stupid. They know that the people in AEW either are part of the problem or they're like, hey, I just want to make my money. Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Adam Copeland. Do you think these are snowflakes? No, they're not snowflakes. They're there because they want to make their money. They want to put the nest egg for their wife, for their kids, for their future, for their retirement whenever it happens. They want to have that extra glory. When Adam Copeland comes out on Dynamite and says, hey, I plan on retiring in AEW. Sir, we ain't stupid. You ain't got no choice unless you want to retire for fucking MLW or Jose's Championship Wrestling and Rodeo. You ain't got no fucking choice because WWE don't want him wrestling full time. His time right now, unfortunately, has passed him by. And if Adam Copeland was still this tremendous draw. You wouldn't see 500,000 viewers, 600,000 viewers, 700,000 viewers. When Tony Khan, the night, and honestly, I don't know when AEW ceased to exist. I don't think they close for years and years and years. They're not in any jeopardy of closing. But if this downswing continues and it turns into a bigger problem, the turning point for me, the Mick Foley moment when Tony Schiavone said, Mick Foley is going to win their world heavyweight title. That'll put asses in the seats. Remember that moment? Did that turn around the ratings? No. If you look at the ratings, the Monday Night Wars, I lived through them. I covered them. I started my hotline in 1997. When you go back to the Monday Night Wars, Mick Foley winning the World Heavyweight Championship was not that moment where the turning point shifted the other way. The shift was already there. But Schiavone being told to say that, don't know heat on Schiavone, but Schiavone being told to say that became the point, that one moment. You remember when Brett screwed Brett? A lot of people say that's the moment that Mr. McMahon was born. No. Mr. McMahon was being planned for years. That moment allowed it to start branching to a different level. But you always want a moment to go to and say, that's the turning point. That's the turning point. That's the turning point. The turning point for AEW that has them in this position now is the night that AEW Dynamite went head-to-head with NXT. NXT brought in LA Knight, Asuka, John Cena, The Undertaker, and a few others. They all work for World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated. That's before it was sold. I said this. I worked indies for a few years. It was not good. What I did was part-time. I was not good at it. But let me tell you something. Sharing a locker room with Hall of Famers, sharing a locker room with, just larger-than-life people and sitting there and listening, even though I was an absolute nobody, and just absorbing. And so I always told this story about Sandman. Of all people, Sandman. You would think that this guy would just be anybody got a beer? This motherfucker took every goddamn scrub that was in USA Pro Wrestling, including me and others, and he's like, you should do this. You should do this. Yeah, you should do this. And he was trying to just give advice. Now, maybe some people that were higher in the food chain be like, the fuck out of here. What are you, stupid? But us took it in, absorbed it. Imagine the NXT roster that are trying to take it to the next level, that are trying to get to the main roster, that have always been inspired by wrestlers of yesteryear. John Cena comes by to hang out. And Undertaker comes by to hang out. And CM Punk comes by to train. And CM Punk comes by to spa. And wrestlers, Hall of Famers come by to hang out. And you got this Afro fucking reject clown on social media, Tony Khan, that says, the Undertaker and John Cena made history. That this is the first time that they were on a show that drew less than 1 million. Is that Tony Khan's fault? In the end, yes, he's a grown adult. But you know what his problem was? He thought all of those internet wrestling clowns that for 4 fucking years made him think that what he was doing was the right thing, that his niche, he thought he was over on social media, where everybody was going to go, yeah, let's pretend this is Tony Khan, cock. And for audio only, I'm holding a chicken right now. This is Tony Khan. And this is social media. This is Twitter. After Tony Khan made that remark, congrats, John Cena, Undertaker. First time you drew under 1 million. Tony Khan thought it was like, What do you think, guys? That was a good one, Tony. That's a funny one. Yeah. Look at the desperation, WWE. They got to bring the big guns, the Hall of Famers, because Dynamite is on a Tuesday. Yeah. You did a good one. Without naming names, these people in the internet wrestling community are killing AEW. Because when you have the wrestlers the last couple of days, their counter is, I love AEW. I love AEW. AEW creates jobs. No shit, Sherlock. But that's their, I need to publicly comfort myself. I need to publicly comfort Tony Khan. I need to publicly comfort that internet wrestling clown audience that in rose-colored glasses have the goddamn nerve 4 weeks ago to say, hey, everybody, they signed Okada. They got Will Ospreay. Mercedes Moné is going to debut tomorrow on Dynamite. These are game changers. Guys, AEW, they're dead serious. They're going to take it to the next level. They're game changers. You just wait. And then you get this fucking retard, Ella Bennett, pro wrestling fan, but you write an article, you deserve to be criticized. This idiot, dumb moron, writes AEW triumphs over WWE in securing top wrestling free agents, and they put this look, Tony Khan's face, and Triple H with his hands on his head like, what? Oh, shit. What the fuck did I do? I might lose my job over it. Those people are the ones killing AEW, because these are the same fucking people. Every time Tony Khan opens his mouth and says something stupid, good one, Tony. And then when the professionals like Bryan Danielson and Adam Copeland and others that want to keep their job, the Dax Harwoods and everyone else who are worried. Remember, guys, Mercedes Moné is very unique in AEW. Very unique in AEW. Because you look at all the signings that they have made. When Jay White signed, by the way, how was that match with Billy Gunn? When Jay White signed, you had all of these internet wrestling clowns telling you for weeks that WWE wants Jay White, got to have Jay White, needs Jay White. And sorry, I don't have the greatest connections, but the people that I contacted are like, WWE's not looking to sign Jay White. If they could get him on the cheap, it's like winning an eBay auction. I don't really need this fucking car, but if I could get it for $500 and it's worth $10,000, of course I'm going to sign it. Of course I'm going to bid on it. How many of you out there ever bid on something, a WWE auction, Undertaker signed, I don't know, casket, and it's valued at $15,000 and the opening bid is $200. Because you bid $200, does that mean Jack Splat is seriously interested in getting the Undertaker's casket? If WWE could have secured them on the goddamn fucking cheap, they would have done so. But they weren't going to pay that kind of money because Triple H said on Pat McAfee today, in case you didn't hear it, just because you were popular somewhere else doesn't mean you could make it in the WWE. Doesn't mean you're going to be a big star somewhere else. And to me, that was a message to people that are in AEW right now. Adam Copeland is there because WWE didn't have anything for him. He's still got a ton in the tank. Look at Christian Cage. Christian Cage came back, and I'll never forget that moment with him and Adam Copeland in the ring in WWE, and I was like, wow, this is fucking cool. Brought back so many memories. And then we hear WWE has no plans on Christian Cage. Why not? Why not? Because Vince McMahon feels he's too old and we got to start pushing the young talent? Christian Cage was forced to go to AEW because WWE really didn't have anything for him. Paul White, Mark Henry. Anybody remember, WWE had no interest in keeping him around, so they signed with AEW. You look at Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson was not going to be able to have the dream matches like Dave Meltzer reminded you today. Everybody, don't forget, Bryan Danielson is having a dream match against Blue Demon, or whoever it was, Blue Balls in Mexico. What did we say 2 weeks ago on these shows? I'm happy for Bryan Danielson, but I'm not watching AEW because of bucket lists. I don't give a shit about Minoru Suzuki taking on Samoa Joe. It's your dream match. It ain't mine. Oh, Adam Copeland, I never thought I would ever get to have a match with Minoru Suzuki. It sucked. Bryan Danielson wants to have a hair versus mask match against Mystico. Good. Do it in your backyard. I'm not interested. You know, a lot of these wrestlers are there because they're getting their bucket list. Tony, can I have potato chips for breakfast? Of course you can. Of course you can. Tony, can I stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning and watch TV? Tony, can I play video games until it's 10 a.m. tomorrow? Tony, can I go out and play, anywhere else? No, your curfew's 10 o'clock. Tony, can I stay out until 1? Stay out until 3. It's okay. It's why when CM Punk went to Tony Khan with Jack Perry, Tony, take care of this. Oh, what do you want me to do? Oh, what do you want me to do? How's about be a fucking boss? Jack Perry incident.
Yeah.
What happened?
Jack came back from his match. I was the next match. I'm sitting there. And I got people with me. I'm not going to say who they are, because I got a lot of friends who work there, and I wish them all well, and I don't want them to be punished because they're friends with me.
Again, CM Punk putting over people that work in AEW. He must have did it 25 times, but all of these people that are talking about it seem to leave that little tidbit out.
And I walk up to him and I'm just like, Jack, why do you insist on doing this dumb internet shit like on TV, And he's just like, well, if you got a problem about it, do something about it. And I was just like, man, come on, man. I would fucking kill you. Like, what are we doing, And it just, it's like Chael says, sometimes you just can't let you get close, I thought I was doing a responsible thing, I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there, told me to stop, and then I quit. I turned to Tony and I said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown. I quit. I went to my room, and then Joe and Jerry Lynn came and got me, and they're like, let's just go out there and kill it. And I was just too...
All right, here's another clip just to finish that up.
I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there, told me to stop, and then I quit. I turned to Tony and I said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown. I quit. I went to my room, and then Joe and Jerry Lynn came and got me, and they're like, let's just go out there and kill it. And I was just too fired up, and I'm fired up now, and I'm probably going to regret, talking about all this shit, but that's what happened.
Okay, so for those that don't know, you actually did go out and wrestle.
Yes.
Is that all just a blur for you, that match? Do you even remember?
No. That match is I was just like, this is the last time I'm ever going to wrestle Samoa Joe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is my last match in this company.
You knew that?
Yeah. I quit. I said, I fucking quit.
So why did you even go out?
For Joe.
Right.
For Joe, for Paul Turner, the referee, for Jerry Lynn, the agent on the match, because I, respect him, and I thought it was the professional thing to do. All the fans, a lot of fans there.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of them to see me, so go out there and give them a show.
100,000 fans, right?
I don't know. You have to check the turnstile count.
78,219.
And so you go to the back. What happens then? Like, your match is over. Great match. What happens?
They told me Jack was told to leave, and I was like, do I got to leave? I was like, I want to watch the show. And they're like, no, it's fine. And then, I don't know, a couple matches later, a very nice man by the name of Sam, he was in charge of security. He was like, what are your plans for the rest of the night? And I was like, I was just going to shower and just hang out and watch the show, Because the whole solo locker room thing's fucking lame. I had Joe, I had House of Black, I had all these guys with me. And I was just like, I just want to watch your match, you know? And then he just kind of looked at me and I went, is it easier for you in your job if I leave? And he's just like, yeah, it might be. He's like, but nobody's telling you got to go. Like and I was just like, well, Sam, I'm a man to man. I'm not trying to fuck up your day. You got a job to do. So if it's easier for you, if I split, I'll split. And then I went and got Nando's for a bunch of the boys and went to my hotel room. And, when the show was over, they came by and we ate chicken.
Tremendous spot, by the way.
Nando's is great.
Spicy, the rice.
Oh, yeah.
The chips.
Peri.
All right, that's enough with that. One other clip I want to share with all of you is about the internet. I know Nick Hausman has been in the news because of the Jericho stuff, and I have nothing personal against Nick Hausman, just because some people are just really, really weird sometimes with their reporting skills doesn't make them a bad person. I don't think he's a bad person at all. But, I will never forget that Ring of Honor press conference right around WrestleMania time. What was it, 2 years ago? And the report that somebody put out there that CM Punk forced Colt Cabana out of AEW and they ended up moving him. They were going to move him to Ring of Honor, whatever it was. And that report flew around online. And instead of trying to get the answers, and this is why a lot of people are internet wrestling clowns. It's not just podcasters or bloggers or even people on social media. It's news people also. Instead of contacting, and I said this 1,000 times at that time, instead of contacting CM Punk and saying, hey, is it true? If he doesn't answer you, you go public and you say, I reached out to CM Punk for comment and he declined. Or we reached out for CM Punk for a response and we have yet to receive a reply. When you hear something questionable on social media and people are reporting it and you see the absence of, we reached out to AJ Styles for confirmation and have yet to receive a response. We reached out to so-and-so and we have yet to, when that is absent, you know that the person is just trying to get a buzz surrounding them. So what does this goof do? He asked Tony Khan about the story. Tony Khan has no comment on it. What do you expect him to say? Yeah, man. Yeah, Punk and him, they don't get along. Yeah, man. I'd do whatever. I'd suck his dick if I have to keep him here. What do you expect Tony Khan to say? He ain't stupid. He knew Tony Khan was going to give him no answer. But putting that out there built the snowball. For the next year, nobody went to CM Punk. Nobody wrote. We reached out for CM Punk for clarification. We reached out to Colt Cabana for clarification. You know why they never reached out? Because they knew the answer already. And because of the Young Bucks, because of Colt Cabana being close with them, because of the EVPs and the executives, and you look at the Brandon Cutlers, and listen, not everybody out there is as big of a dick as others. But when you're getting a job and you're getting a decent income, where chances are you might be either on OnlyFans right now or in Sunglasses Hut. If you weren't working for AEW, you're going to go with the flow any way possible. And they knew the answer. That's why sometimes when I come up here and dispel bullshit, there are people like, Don Tony, shut the fuck up. Shut up. We want to have fun. The TV 14 a year ago. This Monday, WWE's bringing back TV 14. PG, rest in peace. And I'm like, what are these fucking people talking about? And I came up here and gave you the legitimate business reason why WWE was not going TV 14. And you literally have people, shh, shut up. Quiet. You're spoiling it. You see this happen all the time. So, this is CM Punk's view on the internet wrestling reporters the media scrums that night.
Reporters that report shit.
Oh, shit. I almost put the video. I would have got my ass in trouble. You know, we can't play video over here. If you notice, all the places shared audio. I just looked over. I was like, ah!
Reporters that report shit about you like it's fact without ever checking with you to see if stuff happened, who are openly friends with other wrestlers. You know, it's just fucking high school. It's high school, cliquey, mean girls, drama bullshit. And I get there and I see these goofs, you know, and I just, you know, lose my temper. Top 3 CM Punk promos, though.
It was tremendous.
Yeah,
I know you don't like the word.
Yeah.
Do you like Pipe Bomb now? Because I know one time famously you said you hated Pipe Bomb.
But again, what are we going to do? Are we going to credit me for changing the vernacular of how people talk about promos? Like, or are we going to just be like, he's overrated?
That's funny because almost word for word, that's how I would talk, seriously. But yeah. You know what makes me laugh about these internet wrestling clowns? I'll give you a good example. Even though Vince McMahon is obviously on the do not talk about list anymore, unless it's, you know, the case. I'll never forget when Vince McMahon was on Pat McAfee. And for a couple of years, you know, there was this agenda being pushed that Triple H was being forced out, that he was a clown and this and that. And he was being treated like a dunce. Meanwhile, we found out he was on his deathbed. And, you know, we always talked about that WWE has to answer to the stockholders, to the investors, that they're not going to change things on the fly because there are too many people in the corporate business world you have to answer to. And everybody else online saying the opposite. So Vince McMahon goes on Pat McAfee, and Vince McMahon says that exact thing. Like, you know, I have to answer to the stockholders now. And people are like, he lied. He lied. I mean, this is what it has come to, that when internet wrestling reporters, the clowns, not only get it wrong, but refuse to verify a story because they know, listen, guys, straight up honest. If Nick Hausman or Dave Meltzer or Brian Alvarez or anybody you want to put in that sentence, if any of them would have contacted CM Punk in April of 2022, if any of them would have reached out to CM Punk in 2022 and said, hey, what's going on with this story that we're hearing about Colt Cabana? They knew that CM Punk would have said, it's bullshit. It's the backstage politics, trying to make me look bad, trying to make me come across that I got rid of him. It's bullshit. Nick Hausman would not have asked Tony Khan. That story would not have snowballed for a year and a half. That post-media scrum and what CM Punk said would have never happened. So you think about that. All of that could have been avoided if these clowns simply ask, is this story true? How many stories have you been given in the last 2 weeks that ended up being fake, where the wrestlers themselves, somebody give me an example. Wasn't there a wrestler, might have even been WWE in the last week or two, that people were reporting this fake shit and the wrestler actually said, I wish somebody would have reached out to me. I would have given them the answer. People don't reach out because they know the story is bullshit. And if they do reach out to the person and then they're told the truth, now you're in a situation. Do I go with the story anyway and have to deal with the person saying, I told you it wasn't true. Why did you run with it anyway? Or do I just throw the story in the garbage because I know it's fake? By the way, this is what CM Punk had to say about Vince McMahon.
Talking to Paul about this, and we need you to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And
here it is.
The biggest thing I can draw a comparison to is when Chris Benoit did a murder-suicide, right? I was friends with Chris Benoit. And I don't know if it's just how I process things, but I'm famously like on camera weeping, you know, saying goodbye to Chris because at the time, we didn't know, right? We didn't know he had, murdered his wife and his son. And the week prior, we're in Dothan, Alabama, and I'm traveling with him, and we're on the road, and he grabs me and runs me into the trainer's room, and he points, and his little son is in the corner, and he's taped up his hands, and he's drawn X's on his hands, So, like, coming to terms with, that's my friend, he did this horrible thing. Obviously, fuck him, fuck that. But then, I don't have memories of Chris Benoit traveling with me and murdering people at the gym.
Right.
So there was never any instances where I'd, be in a room with Vince and he's shitting on somebody or sexually assaulting somebody. It wasn't like Caligula in Rome. We just didn't see it, But there's that part of me that goes, just like Benoit, okay. I can see that. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm sure Jeffrey Dahmer's mother wasn't like, oh, I can see my boy doing that. No, like, people are shocked that their friend or mentor or whatever is responsible for doing these horrible things. But I'm just more of I guess I'm pragmatic, where I just kind of looked and I went, yeah, okay. All right, I can see that. Kind of nutty, Chris is kind of intense. He's quiet, and then you just, you build that in your head, But it's very, very hard to reconcile.
Yeah, so that's what he said about Vince, and it's a lot of common sense. I brought this up before. You see a lot of cases on TV where somebody will commit a murder. Even if it's a regular person, and they interview the neighbors, and the neighbors will be like, he was quiet. He was always a nice person. He was very, very nice to me. Never saw anything like that. Or you interview family members, and that's why even with Chris Benoit, you see, without naming names, some people who were very, very close with him, they still love the man because they can't accept the fact that Chris Benoit could have been capable of murdering. They don't want to remember him for that. You think his best friends and his family want to go to their graves believing that somebody that they loved, that they cared for, decided to be a double murderer? So you say, oh, it was CTE, oh, it was steroids, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. But there were also other people out there that, how many of you out there, when you hear about somebody committing murder, you say, oh, yeah, I saw that. We look at Tammy Sitch with the DWI and DUI manslaughter, and when you get DWI after DWI, you say, it's a matter of time she's going to kill somebody. Then when it happens, good, saw that coming, because there's a pattern, there's a track record. I'm a little surprised with the Vince McMahon stuff because of what we watched with Vince McMahon on TV for years and years and years. You see some of the weird storylines, some of the, the extracurricular activities he did with some of the divas. And it was, oh, it's just in character. I'm not aroused. It's a character. In the end, Mr. McMahon will get his. Not for nothing. If I'm writing a storyline and I'm kind of attracted to this girl, and I'm like, hey, I have no chance of getting laid, but maybe I could put myself in a storyline where I could play tonsil hockey with her for 5 minutes. You don't think that somebody weird and perverted is like Vince McMahon wouldn't run to it? And then you got to say to yourself, at the same time, though, with people that were willing to get paid to do that, So let's segue. Somebody asked me earlier about Ronda Rousey, Steve Joseph. Steve, Drew Gulak, Ronda Rousey. Did I hear about the story? Yes, I did. For those that don't know the story, again, this is really strange, this book that's coming out. It almost feels like Ronda Rousey's trying to create as much controversy as possible to sell the book. it's strange because you see even YouTube channels, without naming any people, they become controversial and they'll get deep in the mud because it gets views. Look at some of the YouTube channels. I saw one. I don't want to say who it is until I have to pull up the clip again. There was something today that I saw. I'll let you know in the next show. And I'm reading it, and it's almost like when Vince Russo, and you know, I'm always a fan of Vince Russo, and hey, if he could get his money, God bless him. But he even did one last week. Is Vince McMahon secretly plotting to buy AEW? Fucking clip got 30,000 views. Who in their right mind thinks that Tony Khan is secretly going to do business with someone who is accused of sex trafficking? And you actually put that out there, and I've said it many times. I think Vince Russo, after the recording is done, him and everybody he does the shows with must be laughing their ass off. Look at these fucking morons look at these idiots that are tuning into this. They actually believe this shit. I mean, you keep throwing ridiculous nonsense out there and it's getting 20,000, 30,000, 60,000, 100,000 views. He deserves to make that money, and the people out there that are stupid enough to buy into it deserve to waste their time. So I'm wondering if Ronda Rousey is just going over the top, exaggerating to sell books. The story that's going around is that Ronda Rousey was waiting to meet with creative or somebody, and Drew Gulak walked by and pulled the string on her sweatpants. And apparently Bruce Pritchard saw it. Now, if you know Ronda Rousey's views on Bruce Pritchard, I think it's kind of, you know, coincidental that Bruce Pritchard happens to see it. If you read between the lines, that's the first thought I thought of. But the weird thing about it is that Drew Gulak has responded. Drew Gulak said it was an accident. Now, that's a really interesting response, and I'll tell you why. Unfortunately, I cannot use my wife as an example, but she's wearing sweatpants right now, and I know that she is. Her sweatpants have string. You know, you make a loop, and you tie it, and you front. Now, if I'm walking by and I just want to rib her or be a pain in the ass or just be a jerk, I'll walk by and I'll pull the string, and maybe as a joke, her sweatpants fall to the floor. The fuck? What are you doing? How many of you out there, you know, you were in a gym or, you know, you wrestled or you were in a gym and, you know, you just as a prank, you walk by your friend and you pull the string on their shoes. You untie their shoes, you walk by, you pull this, you pull that. Now, I know what some of you are going to say immediately, well, no, DT, there's a guy and a girl. I get it. Here's my point. This doesn't sound like a rib. This doesn't sound like Drew Gulak walking by and just to be an asshole. Just, does this, by the way, yeah, I do support AEW. I just keep my hat back. All right, look, pretend this is a loop. If I walk by and I want to be a dick, all right, I'm doing my show and somebody walks by in the room, they go like this. The fuck you unloop it for? Is anybody going to say, oh, it was an accident? How do you pull somebody's string on their sweatpants and say it was an accident? Drew Gulak isn't stupid. For Drew Gulak to say it was an accident, this is just my opinion. You know what I think happened? No bald. I got a haircut this week. I didn't get a haircut. I got them all cut. I got a haircut this week. For Drew Gulak to say it was an accident, I wonder if he just walked by and somehow something got caught on her string. Maybe he had a gym bag or something with something, and then he walked by. Somehow he bumped into her and he yanked on the string. And she's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, it was an accident." I honestly believe him. Because what moron would say it's an accident or pull it off? It's an accident. That's why I believe Drew Gulak. Drew Gulak is not an idiot. This isn't like you're talking about somebody's sweatpants, the rope on the sweatpants, the tie, the lace. It was an accident? To say that, it had to have been an accident. That's my honest opinion. So, Charlie Conway. Okay. He sent me two. Thank you, Charlie. No, he bundles questions. I'll get into the first one. Explain Trump insurance underwriters, Punk interview thoughts, Al Snow AEW injury comments. If WWE ditches take TKO, another January 6th. Hello to the chat. So Charlie says hi to everybody out there. Will there be another January 6th? No. There'll be whack jobs doing stupid things to government property. I don't think politicians will sit along and let it happen again. So no, I don't think we'll ever see another January 6th, unless there's a full-blown, coup. WWE cannot ditch TKO. It could only be the opposite. Al Snow's AEW injury comments, if you're talking about where Al Snow said that he thinks one day somebody's going to die in an AEW ring, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I said that on this show about 2-3 months ago, that I am worried that someone is going to get seriously injured, if not die in an AEW ring. You have to reel it in sometimes. Somebody is, and accidents happen. Even it's not always reckless in-ring behavior. You want to try to minimize the chance of accident as much as possible. Look at Charlotte Flair's injury. Somebody, just so you know, I don't know if a lot of you know this, somebody with a cell phone, the footage is on Twitter if you want to go check it out. Before Charlotte had that match, there was a guy, and anybody that used to go to ECW shows, do you remember Towel Guy? How many of you out, and that's proof that I used to go to ECW, that's small proof. Anybody remember Towel Guy? Towel Guy was an ECW fan that during each match, before each match, in between each match, he would take a towel and he would wipe the ropes, and he would run across every side of the ring, and the fans would go, "Whoa, whoa," as he's running by. And it became a fun little thing, but he was doing it for safety. ECW doing this for safety. And there's footage of them wiping down the ropes, but that side, you don't see anybody wiping down that side. So there's always been that little bit of speculation that there might have been extra sweat on that rope that Charlotte slipped off of. I think it was just a freak accident. I don't think not wiping the rope caused the injury, but there's been conspiracy theorists out there that have said that. But my point is that the reason why ECW used to do it, and the reason why you do little things, is try to minimize injury any way possible. And to just turn around and let people do what they want to do because they want to do it. Again, remember what I said before? Tony, can I have ice cream for breakfast? Can I use glass? Tony, could I break the windshield? You see where I'm going with this? Like, somebody has to say no. Remember the insurance list? Remember the ban list that wrestlers in AEW can no longer brawl into the crowd if somebody's bleeding, and you cannot take a beverage from somebody at ringside, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this. Why was that being done? Not to appease us, but to send a message to the arenas for insurance purposes. There's a lot of little things in the business world that wrestling fans don't pay attention to. Understand, AEW they will be forced to make cuts. They will be forced to institute changes. They will be forced to make some moves, not because they want to, not because they have a change of heart, but because they're going to be forced to. Some of these changes are not because Tony saw the light, the EVP saw the light. No, because they realize that venues are very, very concerned. When you see glass fly into the first and second row with Darby Allin's stupid spot, although cool, but stupid, and you see these established 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers saying, oh, well, all the fans at ringside knew that there was going to be a spot, and they have these disclaimers and this and that. You tell that to the venue. Somebody gets glass in their eye. You think they're just going to sue Darby Allin? You think they're just going to sue AEW? You think they're just going to sue Tony Khan? They're going to sue the fucking venue. They're going to sue the glass company. They're going to sue everybody they fucking possibly can. And these venues turn around and say, listen, we can't have this, we can't have this, we can't have this, we can't have this. You think CM Punk gave a shit about that car? But he's like, no, it's a rental car. Wrestlers have caused rental companies to not rent cars to promotions. Yours truly caused XPW in 2002 to be banned from going to the hotel. I don't remember, it's the Sheraton, but whatever hotel that the ECW wrestlers used to go to in the 90s and the early 2000s, they went for which event was it? I can't remember. Hostile Takeover. That weekend, because I had the fight with the guy at the desk, and I unfortunately took his Xanax and flipped out, they told XPW the next day, you're not welcome in the hotel anymore. Think I'm lying? Ask Slash, ask anybody that was in XPW at that time. If they were banned from that hotel, luckily they made amends, and I got fired, even though I really wasn't hired to do anything at the time, but that's the story. I acted totally stupid. I flipped out. Yeah, I'm man enough to admit it all these years later. Yes, wrestlers can cause company to ban, and CM Punk didn't want that to happen, because not only does that hurt AEW, it hurts the wrestlers that fly in. Hey, I'm going to go to National. And somehow the rental company knows that the person's a wrestler. No, we can't rent it to you. You know, there's a lot more than just, unused glass. So we already talked about CM Punk interview, and explain to Trump insurance underwriters. I know most of you out there don't want to hear politics, so I'm not going to spend time on it, but I will say this. Trump had to post, I think, $175 million bond, and a bond company called Knight Bonds or whatever it is, Knight with a K, they put up the bond. And now the New York courts are questioning the validity of the bond. That's all it is. I hate politics. I'm not a fan of Trump anymore. I'm not a fan of government anymore. You post a bond, you post a bond. People are upset. He posted a bond. Fuck. So that's all I could explain with that. Your other super chat, thank you, Charlie. All right. Wondering Jericho's cancer in the locker room thought, Stephanie Cena status, acclaimed WWE bound, Hunter cop program, learning Punk scrum, truth. Well, with Punk we already talked about. I don't know anything about Triple H cop program. If you're saying Hunter cop program as an 80s TV show with Fred Dwyer, maybe he's saying that. I used to love watching Hunter. So I don't know that might be what he was talking about. So I was a big fan of that show. In fact, for all of you Acclaim fans out there, I'm going to tell you something funny. I forgot to tell you not too long ago. You'll appreciate it. Stephanie McMahon, as of right now, no interest in returning to the WWE. Never say never, because of the fact that she is a very powerful woman. Right now, she is focused on family. I think Stephanie McMahon returning to WWE in some capacity could very well happen later on. I think this lawsuit with Janelle Grant has to go through the process because people are trying to drag Stephanie into it. And the last thing you want to do is bring Stephanie back. And then you have this controversy. And then you have to worry about every, interview. Oh, what's your statement on Stephanie being back despite being accused of Ashley Mazzaro knowing this and that? And Jericho's cancer in the locker room comment at CM Punk. Listen, Chris Jericho is a very smart man. Some of you that go back with me a few years might remember about 3 years ago when I said that Chris Jericho is probably the second most important person in that company, second most power. A lot of you are like, what are you talking about? Now I think you understand. Jericho has positioned himself to have so much power in that company and influence that he is going to go along with whatever the EVPs want to do. He's going to go along whatever Tony Khan wants to do. Some of you out there might remember the Yes Men with Vince McMahon. Yes Men. Vince McMahon surrounded himself with people like the Briscoes and Pat Patterson and Sergeant Slaughter and a whole bunch of others, Chief Jay Strongbow, Rene Goulet. He would circle himself with a lot of people who learned to say, yes, Vince, that's a great idea. Vince, I think that's a great idea. Vince, that is a great idea. Vince, I think that's a great idea. Yes, men. Yes, 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 yes. That is true. So Chris Jericho is a very smart businessman. He knows that he's not going to get that kind of power in the WWE. And when you get CM Punk, that is truly the voice of the voiceless within AEW, it rocks the boat. It rocks the boat. Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks, the Cutlers, the Guevaras, the Tony Khans, everybody behind the scenes that are all part of that foundation, they're all non-smokers. And CM Punk is a smoker. I know they're not smoker. My point is, when everybody else is not smoking and somebody walks in with a cigarette, no, we can't have that in the locker room. CM Punk was a disruptor. And that's why he was called that by Jericho. Shout out to OTS Tribal Queen. Welcome back to the family, OTS. Don't forget to participate in the predictions challenge. Everybody has until 12 noon. Channel members, made men and women, get an extra shot. Our Patreon family, you got until 12 noon on Saturday. So we're going to start wrapping this up soon because we're already at 90 minutes and I got to get my ass some sleep. And then we got a very, 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 very busy day Saturday and Sunday. Monday, Kevin and I will be doing a recap review and the post-Raw after WrestleMania. So we got a lot of shit to get into Monday night. That's going to be the topics of discussion and any news that comes out from this weekend. Steve Joseph, I answered you, True Gulak, Ronda Rousey. Dream 101. Thank you, Dream. Did I see L.A. choking on gum? Glad he's okay. No, I did not. So L.A. Knight was choking on gum? Oof. Where did this happen? I don't want anybody to super chat that, but where did this happen? Fill me in on this. Was he, I don't think, listen, before anybody asks, some wrestlers chew gum when they go to the ring. Sometimes it helps with their mental, pressure. It takes, you put the focus on your chewing gum and it takes the pressure off of whatever you're doing. Some people chew gum for different reasons. All right, Marvin says during his promo, he started choking on his gum and Corey Graves made a crack about it. So apparently he's okay, which is great. I don't think it's a good idea to chew gum and cut a promo unless you're a hardcore heel and you're doing it to annoy someone. You can annoy someone. I mean, in WWE, you're probably not going to do that. That's too amateurish. You would do that on an indie show. You're cutting a promo. You want to do things to annoy people. I don't think he should have been chewing gum. I mean, look, it's a freak incident. When was the last time we ever saw somebody choke on their gum cutting a promo on TV? Mr. Perfect used to chew gum. But I don't recall Mr. Perfect ever cutting a promo and then after he's done in his promo, and slapping it away. I don't think he should have chewed. I'm glad he's okay. But chewing gum and cutting a promo, I don't think it's a smart idea. You want to come down to the ring chewing gum? Yeah, a lot of wrestlers do it. If you pay close attention, you will see wrestlers do it. Remember when Kevin Owens used to chew gum? It was different, obviously. He had a nasal issue. Anybody remember that? Remember my spoof song? Owens always chewing all the time, chewing all the time, chewing all the time. Owens always chew. When Kevin Owens first came to the main roster, did you ever notice? He would chew all the goddamn time. And we made a spoof song out of it. Then we learned it was a medical issue, and then I felt like an idiot. I felt like a total idiot. So, holy shit, a lot of you don't know about that. Yeah, I used to do a lot of spoof songs. I haven't done many lately. So, my David Otunga one is probably the most famous one. They say it's mean to say you're green, but you gots to leave WWE. You're not fit to be the shit, so stay at home and make my grits. Oh! And people called me racist because David Otunga is black and I said grits. True fact back then. What about Kurt Angle's ex-squeeze, Tranisha Biggers? And we talked about how I hated Biggers. I never liked Biggers. Biggers always got on my nerves. And yes, we did it by design because people are like, you dick. We know what you're trying to do there. All with good fun. No malice, no anger, no animosity. Mr. Rube Dog. I almost said rude. That was rude of me. Mr. Rube Dog. Would I do a last minute meet and greet? No. First of all, I'm going to be watching WrestleMania at home with family. Believe me when I tell you, we were 2 weeks ago seriously thinking about going to Mania tomorrow. We were invited. I was invited. Kev was invited. We had carte blanche. Could have gone pretty much mostly paid. The only thing I had to do was just get a room. But the thing is, I got a brand new puppy here that still can't even go outside because she doesn't have all her shots. I have nobody that could watch her. And Philly is about 2 hours away, although I used to drive it all the time. Yeah, this time around, it's not in the cards. But I will tell you that sometime this year or next year, we're going to work on a meet and greet. And it's not going to just be, the DTKC family. It's going to expand to some others as well. So, but yeah, I have to honestly decline. But look, I'm going to be taking in WrestleMania tomorrow and Sunday like a fan. I will take some notes, but the fact that I'm not doing live watch-alongs and doing these big recaps when 95,000 other shows are, I get to sit back and enjoy it as a fan. And that's something we don't get to do as much as we used to. I really want to enjoy this as a fan. Not Dave LaGreca nerd fan, but just as a wrestling fan. Again, as I said earlier, I don't think AEW had their worst week ever. I think AEW would have still generated 750,000 viewers, whether WWE was having WrestleMania this week or Backlash this week. CM Punk cutting this interview was expected. It was going to happen sooner or later. Why Adam Copeland came out and made that speech, I don't understand it's stupid, moronic. They have the tools to generate bigger ratings. But again, when you're a billionaire, guys, put yourself, fantasize for a minute. If you had 10, 15 billion dollars and your dream was to own a minor league baseball team, as long as the team, played and their TV was not in jeopardy and, you're the boss, so you're not in jeopardy. And as long as, you got to fulfill your dream of having a team and this and that, and as long as, that's the thing with AEW. Numbers do matter to an extent because they get too low. That network is dropping them like a bad habit. They ain't none of this kumbaya stuff that you think a publicly traded company is going to tolerate Dynamite going to 500,000 viewers. First of all, why would it even go that low when you have that kind of talent? As long as the Meltzers give random matches 4.5 stars, and as long as these fools in AEW that they care about cage match and they care about those ratings, AEW will never change. What AEW will be is a place where people could have fun and make some money. And that's it. And the owner is a billionaire tenfold. And as long as the network is not going to drop them, and as long as nobody gets seriously hurt or killed, and as long as they have TV, and as long as they can tour, and as long as, there's no major tragedies, hey, if you had that kind of money, you were in Tony Khan's spot right now, as long as you're happy, what would you do different? Tony Khan is not looking to put WWE out of business. AEW is not trying to compete with WWE. AEW, I'll say it like this. USA Pro Wrestling, end of an era, was an indie show that Mass Maniac and I did back in, I think, 2006, 2007. We thought it was one of the greatest indie wrestling shows ever to take place. You had matches on it that were ranked 5 stars. The Elks Lodge had not even standing room only. If you ever go on YouTube, look at any footage of USA Pro Wrestling, end of an era. I've showed some of it. Bam Bam Bigelow mooned the crowd. Remember the story of Triple Threat? And I was watching their gear and all that. You look at that building. It was so packed in there. It was the biggest crowd ever in that building. I thought from matches and what was there for that night, it was one of the greatest indie events of all time. I truly believe that. People thought I was mentally deranged. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Have you ever watched Ring of Honor? Have you ever watched this? Have you ever seen All Japan? Have you ever seen this? What about this? Are you fucking kidding me? Even though I was, in my eyes, I thought we had the best indie shows. We gave 4 or 5 hours of content, a little bit for everybody. We had classic Hall of Famers. We had young stars, rookies, stars of tomorrow. We had hardcore, good wrestling, Japan style, everything. Little bit for everybody. In Tony Khan's eyes, all he cares about is records. Why do you think the Big Bang lead-in is such an important aspect of their ratings? Why is it that every show has to have a 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute overrun? Anything to get the rating up a couple of extra thousand. It's all about numbers. It's all about ratings. And it's not about total viewers, Of course, ticket sales are important because there's too many people out there that will make fun of AEW if the building is 75% empty. But you look at like Wembley, they have to put the tickets on sale 10 months in advance. because you put it on sale for 10 months and sooner or later people will buy tickets and you'll give away and you'll have 3-for-1s and you'll have tickets for $5 and $10 and scalpers are going to be afraid to get stuck and left with nothing. So they put their tickets dirt cheap. They put on a hell of a good show. I don't think anybody can deny that AEW puts on great pay-per-views. But overall, if you have that kind of money and you still have TV, and you still get the support you get on the IWC, why would you want anything else? It's the fans and these whack jobs and the internet wrestling clowns and the media that insist to try to put AEW on the level of WWE. So when Triple H says we're in competition with ourselves, they get an uber offended. How dare you, Triple H? How dare you, Paul, for saying that? Because in their warped mind, they insisted that AEW was on the level of WWE. They insisted that AEW puts on better matches than WWE. They insisted that they have the greatest roster and WWE doesn't. So when you insist on brainwashing people that AEW is here and WWE is here, when WWE is looking at it in a common sense, realistic approach, it says we're in competition for ourselves. The only people that could hurt WWE is WWE. And they get crazy offended. That motherfucker, that cocksucker took shots at AEW. No, he didn't. You're the one. And you ever notice how no TNA fans get offended by Triple H's comment? Anybody ever take notice that no GCW fans, no MLW fans, no indie wrestling fans, no other fans, but AEW fans? Why? Because they have to feel that they're on the level as WWE. They can't get WWE out of their fucking head. They have to insist that they're on the same level as this. And when WWE puts it back down to earth, it says, listen, we're worried about ourselves. They're not worried about anybody else. This is why, listen, this thumbnail I made, Tony Khan, yeah, CM Punk called him a clown. But he became a clown because he got comfortable with the internet wrestling community. He thinks that he's over. And the problem is the people that he's over with, they just want that warm, fuzzy feeling inside. They're not helping his company. Let's see. Mr. Rube Dog, I answered why I didn't do a meet and greet WrestleMania 40. Just too much going on over here. And that's it as far as super shout outs. So, a few people asked me if I did that mustache because of Shad Khan. No, I was just looking for a funny clown mustache and that came up. It was just coincidental that it looks like Shad Khan's mustache. But the ears I added. The ears I thought would be a good touch. That photo of CM Punk and Tony Khan is real, by the way. That is real. Tony Khan just wants to be one of the boys. He just wants to be one of the boys. He's not looking to be a boss. He's in charge. He owns it. But listen, guys, if I had $1 billion right now, I could go out and buy a business on the boulevard over here. I could go buy a deli. Well, deli, I know. I could go buy a clothing store. I could go buy a computer store. I could go buy a cell phone store. I could go buy a restaurant. Doesn't mean I know how to fucking run it. But as long as I have money and as long as I'm breaking even, or even if I'm losing a little, I still got $1 billion in the bank. Hey, I'm living my dream. I always wanted to have my own business. I always wanted my own cell phone company. Don Tony Telecommunications. Even if I'm losing money, look, for 15, 17 years doing this, I lost tens of thousands of dollars. I used to joke, Mish and I could have bought BMWs with the amount of money that we dished out over 15 to 17 years because we never got any revenue coming in. A lot of people don't realize from 2003 up until 2017, 2018, there really was nothing coming in. Then Patreon came along and, we started the Patreon, and, it's pretty cool now because we've been there for 7 years. So anybody that signs up now has got 7 years of shows that have never been made public. But all those years, every year, $500 a month, just throwing it into the shows and then filing taxes and then doing this and that. And then you realize, holy shit, I've been spending $6,000 to $10,000 a year to do hotlines and shows. But, as long as I was making money somewhere else, I did it because I enjoyed doing it and everybody enjoyed it as well. All right. Roderick is asking, do I see a Randy Orton, Kevin Owens feud post-Mania? Probably not. They're forcing it now because it's a three-way. Of course, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens are going to get physical against each other in this match. Listen, what's going to happen in this match? I can tell you to the T. The match is going to start. Logan Paul is going to look at Kevin Owens and he's going to look at Randy Orton and he's going to act like a chicken shit and try to run away. And then Randy Orton and Kevin Owens are going to take turns having fun with Logan Paul. And then what's going to happen is that Randy Orton is going to try to go for a pin. And Kevin Owens is going to, I'll say the opposite. Kevin Owens goes for a pin and Randy Orton pulls Kevin Owens off. Kevin Owens will look at Randy Orton like, why the fuck you do that? And then Randy Orton will go for a pin. Kevin Owens will pull him off. And Randy Orton will look at Kevin Owens and be like, why the fuck did you do that? And then all of a sudden they're going to start punching each other. And then you'll get the KSI antics and the Prime Energy bullshit and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then in the end, I think Randy Orton hits the RKO and Kevin Owens is about to get the win. And then maybe Logan Paul somehow gets a cheap win out of it. They wanted to make the three-way, I think, to make Logan Paul retain. If you really want to go a step further, you could say that Kevin Owens is the Hangman Page in this match. AEW waited too goddamn long for Swerve Strickland to become World Heavyweight Champion. Oh, that's another problem with AEW too. They have devalued their championships. There are so many championships, they are devalued. They do this rating system, and Mercedes Moné is challenging, I think, Julie Hart. She's challenging one of the champions. And everybody's like, what happened to the rating system? Thunder Rosa should be getting this spot. And if she's not getting this spot, then everyone's going to get this spot. Mercedes haven't even had a match yet, and you get a title shot. And what happened to the ratings? They have devalued their titles so much that none of the titles care anymore. Okada gets a belt. Oh, Mark Briscoe's going to take on Eddie Kingston for a belt. Big fucking deal. I don't care about any of their belts. There are too many belts. Now nobody cares. Powerhouse Hobbs? Ha ha! 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 Ha ha! 3-4 months ago, I said, yeah. People are like, they're finally giving Powerhouse Hobbs a push. I said, let's see 3-4 months from now. Let's see what happens. Ha ha! Wardlow. Ha ha! Look at Jay White. I'm scissoring. And then people start catching on like, this is fucking stupid. So he turns to Billy Gunn, oh, they're finally taking Jay White serious. Get the fuck out of here. This isn't about, in-depth storylines and building characters. Somebody sent me a clip the other day that Scorpio Sky turned on Chuck Taylor. I'm like, yeah, and? Well, he turned on his... I don't care if Chuck Taylor dies in a motorcycle accident in storyline. Why do I care about Chuck Taylor? Beat his ass. He looks like I bought AJ Styles on Wish. The TNA AJ Styles when he looked like Al Snow when he was very disheveled. Like Chuck Taylor? If it was AEW never existed, Chuck Taylor would probably be on Schmuck Championship Wrestling in Idaho. Like, why do I care about Commander, Gravity, Lee Moriarty? Well, because he's, service and, care about any of these people. WWE's made us care about JD McDonough. We want to see that bobblehead get smacked around. AEW devalued their titles, and AEW never made us feel why we should care. Hardcore AEW fans care about Chuck Taylor. If I still worked for an indie wrestling promotion and Chuck Taylor was on my shows every single month, I would care about Chuck Taylor. When I used to show my Wrestle Crap, and I used to show Sabotage, and I used to show a few other people, and we had a ball, and some of these guys could fucking work. And I would tell stories, and I would say about this person, and people would be like, who? The fuck do I care about this person for? I cared. I cared because I worked with that guy every single month. See where I'm going with this? For hardcore AEW diehards, Chuck Taylor does matter. But the overall scope of wrestling, no, he doesn't. I hate to break it. Scorpio Sky, did you see with his actions? The fuck do I care? What do I care? All right. We're at an hour and 50. So let's spend 9 more minutes, then we'll jet. Mark Hicks says he thinks I'm going to enjoy Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, ever since I've been doing the hotlines, people used to say to me, DT, sometimes when you talk, you sound like Paul Heyman. It's just, I'm from New York, and this has always been my style. I didn't base it on anybody. This is just the way that I talk when I do the shows. Now, I don't talk like this outside of the shows. I don't call up and say, hey, your insurance policy is about to cancel. Don't be a goof. Pay your bill. I don't talk like that on the outside. In fact, I've told this over the years. A few of you have weirdly showed up at my office unannounced. DT, I drove all the way over here to meet you. So nice to meet you. Could I take a selfie? Yeah. Meanwhile, I don't know who this person is. Happened to me at least 6 times in the last 5 years. But you know what all 6 people said every single time? They're like, wow, you are nothing like you are on the shows because I'm in office mode. And by the way, very quickly, here in New York today, we had a 4.8 earthquake. I had posted some video on my Twitter live. I was driving around because some of our streets got cracked, and then I deleted it. I didn't think anybody really cared. Plus, I also thought about Taiwan and some other places that got hit with earthquakes, and I'm like, if I'm going to show a little street crack and other people lost their lives and livelihood, I come off looking stupid, so I deleted it. But I was in my office. It was about 10 after 10 this morning, and I'm in my office by myself. I'm waiting for a customer to come in, and I'm on a computer. Now, understand, right below my office, they're doing work. They're opening up an Italian sandwich shop in about a month. The place is empty right now, and they've been doing a lot of jackhammering in the concrete. So every time they're breaking the concrete in the store below me, my office vibrates a little bit. The jackhammer, the noise. So 10:10 this morning, I'm sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden, my office is going like this. And I felt this vibration, and my immediate thought was, these motherfuckers are working downstairs again. Usually they tell me because, I have a lot of elderly customers. And believe me when I tell you, it's bad enough that any of my elderly customers over the age of 80 smell like rotten cheddar cheese in the summertime. But I don't need any 80, 90-year-old woman to come in and fuck is this noise? I can't fucking think while I'm here. It's that bad. So when they tell me, look, we're doing work downstairs, I'm like, all right, let me tell some of my customers, either I'll go by their house and meet with them there or tell them to come in the next day. So 10:10, it's office starting to go like this. And I'm literally shaking. And I'm like, these fucking people are working now? And for like 15 seconds, it went on. And I'm like, no, is this a fucking earthquake? And then I was in the middle of typing an email, and I swear I will never do another show again if I'm lying. I'm halfway through the email, and I'm like, should I leave and go outside? And I'm like, yeah, but let me finish my email first. So I kept typing the email, and then it stopped. And then all of a sudden, I hear people outside, we just had a fucking earthquake. And I'm like, no. And I look on social media, and I see, yeah, New York, Philly, Jersey. I think Jersey is where it happened. So we had an earthquake. Fine. I was a little like, wow. Because the last time we had an earthquake here that I'm familiar of was probably like 10 years ago, maybe more than that, 12 years ago. I was in my bedroom at the time. It was in the afternoon. I was home for lunch. I was on my computer and watching a little TV at the same time. And I still had my TV like up on a stand near the ceiling. And it was one of those two TVs. And I'm looking at the TV and it's going like this. It's going like this. And I'm like, but I was so calm. And I was like, whoa, we're getting an earthquake. But I had this weird calmness. Like if I would have just like got crushed, so be it. I had no like, fuck, let me go leave the house. But tonight, getting ready for my wife's birthday dinner, about 6 o'clock, I think it was, we had an aftershock. And the bird cage in my living room, you heard the bells going off. So we had an aftershock around 6 o'clock. So little freaky. Dream 101 is asking, do I like Jersey Mike's? I've had Jersey Mike's subs twice. They're good. Nothing beats a regular Italian deli. My father's Italian deli makes amazing heroes. I know a lot of you know my father's Italian deli from ECW Guilty as Charged 2000, the infamous Francine spot with the hero. But my father's deli still makes insanely good heroes. In fact, my wife, she's Ecuadorian and German with a tiny little Italian in her. Like she'll eat like pig's feet and shit like that. She don't eat Italian food all that much. And she'll say to me, get me an Italian hero from your dad's store. She loves it. But Jersey Mike's is more commercialized, but it's still good enough. I've had it twice. I enjoy it. So OTS Tribal Queen, ADT, Podfather. Speaking of earthquakes, Hall of Fame is still criminally missing one. Enjoy WrestleMania. Yeah, Earthquake deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. John Tenta deserves it. It's a shame because so many years have gone by. Even Dark Side of the Ring episode wasn't going to speed that process up. I do believe Earthquake will go in the next 3 to 5 years. But because he's gone for so long, it's really, As far as I'm concerned, Roderick, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame. Listen, he died of bladder cancer, and I remember covering it. I don't recall him going in the Hall of Fame before then. But then again, why do I keep feeling like somebody's son, like his son accepted it for him? I'm thinking of Big John Studd, and I'm thinking of others. No, he never went in because there would have been Golga jokes. There would have been shark jokes. I'm not a shark. I'm a man. I'll never forget that. I think I was drinking water at the time. And it's not like that Bailey animated picture that you see on social media. I think I was legitimately drinking, and I heard him say, I'm not a shark. I'm a man. I literally went, I spit. I was like, oh, God, that was bad. But John Tenta was very beloved. You would think by now he would have been put in. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised. There's some people that definitely deserve to be in. There was somebody I was thinking about the other day. I can't remember right now, but I was like, yeah, this person's not in either. Bam Bam is still not in. I don't think Bundy is in, right? I think King Kong Bundy is still not in. I don't recall Bundy being celebrated. John Cena's got to go in soon, you would think. So, okay. Let's start bringing this home. Bobby Mean says if Mike Rotunda got inducted in this year's Hall of Fame, he's thinking Bray Wyatt will headline next year, and Bo Dallas is going to be the one who inducts him. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it this past Monday, that it was the family's decision not to put him in this year, that it was too stressful. That was the exact words by Mike Rotunda, his father. And I totally respect that. Bray Wyatt would have gone in this year if the family was ready, and you can't rush them. You can't rush them. I mean, sure, we want to celebrate. We all want to have that feeling. We all want to, even in our house, do the Firefly and even cry a little bit, some of us. But, and that documentary was beautiful, man. I hope whatever they decide to do with Bo Dallas, Taylor Rotunda, I hope whatever they do, it turns out good. Because as much as Bray Wyatt was my favorite over the last 10 plus years, I also admit that the stuff he was doing with LA Knight, and they did that ridiculous neon match, and some of it just felt like it was going nowhere. And, you realize it now, especially, it wasn't his fault creatively. But, even though WrestleMania feels hot right now and WWE's on fire, doesn't mean that every gimmick and every person clicks. And, there's going to be a lot of added pressure on Taylor Rotunda. There's going to be an insane amount of pressure on him because you don't want him to be the next Bray Wyatt. You don't want him to be of course, you're going to think of Bray Wyatt when you see whatever he does, but you don't want to set it on that same bar because Bray Wyatt's creativeness was next to none. And that is some very, 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 very big shoes to fill. And the problem is there'll be too many people online that are going to compare Bray Wyatt to whatever gimmick Taylor Rotunda's doing, if it's something with Uncle Howdy or an extension of The Fiend or something like that. There's always going to be that comparison, and it's going to be unfair, but that's coming. Yeah, the Pitch Black match, that was just not good, man. All right, let's do 3 more questions, and we will get out. I hope everybody has a fun WrestleMania weekend. Doesn't matter if you're an AEW fan or an AEW hater. Doesn't matter, whatever floats your boat. At the end of the day, there's some good wrestling on the horizon. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to covering it with Kev on Monday. I'm going to really enjoy this weekend as a wrestling fan. So. Charlie, at this point, I don't think anybody's really thinking about the DX anniversary or DX Hall of Fame. Billy Gunn was not there because of his AEW commitments. Hey, you work for the competitor. I think the big question right now is if Goldust is allowed to attend WWE this weekend. Maybe Goldust feels it's not the right thing to do. Now, yes, Dustin Reynolds, is usually with face paint, and, if he shows up out of character, it looks a little different, but this could end up being a situation where Dustin is backstage. I would not be surprised if we find out that Dustin was there, but he was backstage, not on camera. Yeah, Joseph says as long as Cody wins, he's happy. I think Cody's got to finish the story. It's a given. It's like the Royal Rumble. We knew Cody was winning the Rumble. We kind of started thinking Punk and going off topic because it was too predictable, but in the end, Cody still won. Cody's going to win. He's got to finish the story. If he doesn't finish the story, he's going to finish it on Monday or on Friday, SmackDown. And I don't see that happening because he's a Raw wrestler. And I don't think he gets a shot at Roman again after WrestleMania Sunday. Plus, they've teased that he gets no more shot afterwards. So I think Cody absolutely finishes. The big question is, what transpires right before Cody wins the belt? All right, 2 more. Then we're going to jet out. I think Bray headlines next year. I do. It's still going to be painful. Listen, 5 years from now, it's still going to be extremely crushing for JoJo and those kids and Taylor and Mike Rotunda and all of his close friends and wrestling friends and, relatives. Pain, you learn to live with it, but it never goes away. I, have dealt with friends and family who have died over the years, pets that have died. You learn to live with it, but the pain never goes away. So next year, I think it's pretty much a high possibility. I think it's a high possibility. So Philly crowd is going to be hot. It's not going to just be Philly fans. It's going to be all across the globe. But that ECW Philadelphia vibe does pull, it does affect those. Listen, I'm from New York. New York is not far from Philly. But when I first started going to ECW Arena in 1994, there was a vibe in Philly, especially when you went around downtown in the business district and you went to Tony Luke's and you went to the ECW Arena. And then, I'm telling you, like that parking lot, there's a vibe. There's an energy. There's something about Philly that you feel it. Anybody that's ever been in Times Square, that's an extreme example, but there's something about going to New York City. Even if you don't live there, you feel it. You kind of get that vibe of what it's all about. So I do not care about the Puff Daddy, P. Diddy situation. I'm not a fan of his, and I don't care what's going on there. It's just strange that sex trafficking is suddenly becoming like a regularly used word. It's strange that there's been that many references. All right, one more. Then we're going to jet. Let's make it good. I'm looking. All right, Michael Gonzalez. Why do I think they have turned Solo Sikoa into a glorified jobber after his win over Cena? Solo is absolutely not a glorified jobber. Wins and losses right now do not matter all that much for Solo because the fans know Solo has a really strong, bright future. Every time there's a tease that Solo could turn babyface, that crowd is all over it. Every time. When you are over, a couple of losses are quickly forgotten. That's why even with Sami Zayn and Gunther, I saw that storyline weeks before anybody else did. Because Sami is so beloved, you go on a little winning streak, all is forgotten. It's a hiccup. Solo Sikoa, even the people that he's losing to, there's a bigger story to it. It's not just, they're making him lose, they have nothing for him. That's not the case. Solo Sikoa is going to have a very important role at WrestleMania. You will see a moment where we think Solo Sikoa repeats this year what he did to Cody last year. That might be the time where you hear Cena's music hit or somebody else comes out, and that's where things change. I think we will see that moment where you hear Michael Cole say, Solo's going to do it again. He's going to, ruin it for Cody Rhodes. And then something's going to happen. Solo Sikoa is perfectly fine. The guy is so fucking talented. They haven't even touched the surface of what he could do. Will he be world heavyweight champion? No, I don't see that. But Solo Sikoa is legit. And the fans like him. And again, every time there's a tease that he turns babyface, crowd fucking wants it. Will they get it anytime soon? No idea. I think Cena does appear. Listen, I'll leave you with this, everybody. I reiterate what I said at the beginning of the show. For the last couple of days, I've talked to a few people in Philly, see what's going on, try to get a little bit of dirt, not to break on shows, not trying to be selfish, but as a wrestling fan, sometimes you want to know. You're like, come on, you could tell me. I'm not going to tell anybody. What do you know? What are you hearing? What it is? And you do get told a little bit. There's a couple of surprises being planned. I will tell you that TKO Group Holdings, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. This has nothing to do with AEW. I'm just saying this as a fact. Remember this comment as I close this. Triple H, Nick Khan, Dwayne Johnson, because he's on the board of directors, WWE Creative, TKO Group Holdings, Ari Emanuel, they are all setting this up to be remembered as the greatest, biggest WrestleMania in history. Next year, it will be difficult to top it. What happens in the next 12 months, we don't know. But for WrestleMania 40, especially that it's 40, it's not 39, it's not 41, it's not 44, it's 40. It's 40 years of WrestleMania. They are planning on pulling out a lot of surprises. A lot of surprises. There might be bigger stories other than just match results coming out of this. Some of the things that we were told, you know that they are making sure that put it this way. One person said to us, they're making a concerted effort that if people thought that Vince McMahon still had some input on this, this is going to be an entirely different feel. Maybe blood, maybe some of the violence you see is going to be some that we haven't seen in a very long time. The vibe, some of the surprises are going to be huge. So there's going to be a lot more than just 13 matches. So expect big shit to go down. And understand this too, when you talk about money. See, right now, let's be honest. When Mercedes Moné signs, Okada signs, Will Ospreay signs, the vibe you get, and name one person that's going to tell me I'm wrong. The vibe you get is Tony Khan signed them. Tony Khan paid good money to bring them in. For the betterment of the company, to please the AEW fans, whatever reasons. They're all good reasons. But the vibe is Tony Khan dipped into his pocketbook, wrote out checks, and signed them. For WWE, they're pulling out all the stops. It's because they are on fucking financial fire right now. When you are creating money, when you're printing money, you can afford to give Dwayne Johnson $30 million. You can afford to bring this guy in for a one-shot deal and bring this and do this to another degree. When you are raking in profits, record profits, that money gets reinvested. It isn't just thrown in the bank. That is why this idea that, AEW is making $150 million, that's poison. These internet wrestling clowns are hurting the company because there's no vibe that AEW not on WWE level, but AEW is making such big profits that they can afford to sign this person, this person, this person. No, everybody gets the feeling that Tony Khan is paying to bring these people in. For WWE, the vibe is it's getting bigger and bigger and broader and, more surprises because of the money that's coming in. That is the biggest difference. That is something you do not hear these internet wrestling clowns talk about. And that's why they're hurting AEW and they're hurting Tony Khan. The more Tony Khan realizes that these people are hurting him, and then he starts understanding more that, hey, if I start building a profit, hey, if I could start building my ratings, hey, if I could start selling extra tickets, then I could use those profits and reinvest it in this and this and this, and it becomes more attractive. Not everybody, wants to just go to summer camp. So, guys, it's been real. Enjoy WrestleMania. I had a blast tonight doing this. I know it was Hall of Fame night. My apologies. I didn't even think about it last Friday when I said I was going to do this. Once I promised everyone I was going to do a show tonight, I had to come through. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't done so already, seriously, go out of your way and download Monday's Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show from April 1st. It was rock solid. Download our preview and predictions show from April 2nd. We really got into some really, really fun shit. For our YouTube channel members, definitely check out the enhanced version. We spliced in some additional video. And at the very beginning, when you see Raven and Diamond Dallas Page on MTV, that is directly related to a conversation that Kevin and I had about Becky Lynch showing up and confronting Rhea Ripley on the MMA Hour. Big comparisons there, and not in a very good way for Becky Lynch. So enjoy WrestleMania, guys. The next time you will hear my voice will be Monday night, April 8th at 11:15 p.m. Eastern, live on DTKC Discord with Kev. We will recap, we will review, and WrestleMania both nights, and we will also talk about the night after WrestleMania and leading into the SmackDown after WrestleMania. So Monday's going to be loaded. That's going to be the agenda. So, focus on that, because that is what we will be talking about. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. Much love as always. I thank you for the support, and I'll catch you all again soon. You all have a good night and be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.